Welcome to Assistive Technology to Support Reading. This is session 4 in an online series. This one is about online tools for supporting reading comprehension. My name is Corinne Hauer. I'm an Assistive Technology Consultant at the Muskegon Area ISD.
And I'm Jim Capilla. I'm also an Assistive Technology Consultant here.
And just to recap our series, like I said, this is our fourth session in a 4-part series. The rest of our sessions are listed here, including assessment and documentation of need, locating electronic reading material, and tools for reading. So talking about just text reading tools, basic text reading tools, and links to video recordings of those sessions are available on the presentation materials that will be provided with this video. And today, we're going to talk about supporting comprehension. So areas of intervention and accommodation for struggling readers. So some of the areas we've talked about already are foundational skills. So students who have deficits in phonics and phonemic awareness and word identification. Of course, we're hoping these students are receiving interventions as we've referenced before, and then we provide text reader support as they're receiving those interventions so that they have an accommodation to support them in accessing more difficult or more challenging text or grade level text as they're building their reading skills. Fluency is another area that can be supported by text readers, and today we're going to talk mostly about some options for supporting vocabulary building and supporting other areas of comprehension. Some of these strategies or things that students need to be able to do to be able to comprehend text are make connections to text, so their background knowledge around a subject will influence that, as well as the relevance of that text to their own life or interest. They need to be able to answer questions based on a text, ask questions, generate questions based on a text, also identify main ideas, and provide some summarization of what they read. So these next tools that we're going to be talking about are actually tools for supporting fluency, and we're not going to be talking in depth about those today, except to mention that we have provided a whole session on text-to-speech options, and these would be things that would, again, just support that basic fluency by actually accommodating for that, giving students an option to have that text read to them in a fluent manner so they don't have to struggle through the phonics and fluency issues that they might be experiencing. If you click on the link on this presentation, AT to support reading session 3 will link you right to a video presentation, a video recording of that presentation for additional information on those tools. So moving forward, we'll be talking about some tools that might support students in gathering or gaining background knowledge and gaining some relevance around a particular content area or subject. The first tool we're going to be talking about is Instagrok. And in a moment we'll link to a short video, but Instagrok is a free research engine. If you just go to instagrok.com and type in anything that you want to grok, and that just means to gain more knowledge on something. So you type in your subject, it creates a graphical map around that topic with a linked terminology and topics associated with that. It includes photos and videos and definitions, as well as additional websites to link to gain more background information around a topic. So in this short video, we'll do a brief demonstration of Instagrok. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a website called Instagrok. Instagrok is a free multimedia research engine that's available. This may be beneficial for students in performing research, also in building background information to support their understanding of content, reading materials, etc. So this Instagrok.com is the website, and although you can type in just about any subject, book title, or so forth, the more specific you can get about the subject, the better. The better information you'll get, because it does do a web scrape of the internet. So for instance, if I'm reading, or my class is studying the book To Kill a Mockingbird, rather than to to Grok, To Kill a Mockingbird, to research that. Maybe I want to specifically look more at the idea of segregation. And so for students who may not be familiar with the term segregation and what that really meant, doing a little bit more in-depth learning on that. So I'm going to Instagrok.com. I'm going to type in the term segregation. And then I just hit enter, or Grok, and you can see what this does is it goes out, it searches the internet for key terminology, websites, videos, images associated with that concept, and puts them into a map of sorts, a graphic organizer. I'm going to close this just for a moment, and so we can take a peek at what that. So these are all different terms that come up frequently associated with the term segregation. So concepts associated with segregation, and a student then could go in and look more deeply into different areas. So for instance, we may want to look deeper into civil rights and how that's associated with segregation. This will give some key facts associated with civil rights and segregation. You can also click on that to get some websites that I could go into for further information. I can click on the videos tab. It will link me to some videos related to civil rights and segregation that I can watch. I also will have some images. This particular tab doesn't have images, but occasionally they do, and as well as some related concepts. So students can branch off of that. You notice when I click on civil rights, it gives me additional, branches out to additional, so you can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into that map if you want to, or if you want to eliminate certain portions of it. Say we're not talking about the Civil War, we're talking about more recent terms, I can eliminate that altogether. And so that is a very quick look at Instagrok. This next resource is a version of Wikipedia called Simple English. So in this short video we'll show you in just a moment, you'll see where you can type in and search a subject on Wikipedia, and then choose a language that they refer to as Simple English. And what that does is gives a simplified version of that same Wikipedia content, which means that it uses simpler vocabulary and terminology associated with that content, as well as shorter sentences and simpler sentence structure. So that might support students who need to gather some additional background information on a subject, but when they go to read the typical Wikipedia page, they're having difficulty with comprehension, or even with a text reader they might still have difficulty with comprehension because of the level of which that page is written to. So this video will show you a brief demonstration of Wikipedia Simple English. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a feature of Wikipedia called Simple English. So going just to the regular Wikipedia site, wikipedia.org, I'm going to search for a subject. In this subject, I'll search for instance, a novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. Type that in my search window, click the search button. From this page, you'll notice it gives me the typical Wikipedia page, some background information, and what I want to show you is a feature over on the left-hand side. I'm going to scroll down. You notice my left-hand bar, I have options for different languages that the information can be translated into. If I scroll all the way down, these are listed alphabetically, you'll see an option for Simple English. So when I click on that, what this does is gives me, you notice my my description of To Kill a Mockingbird here is much shorter. Also, if you were to analyze the text from the original version and the Simple English version, you'll notice that the vocabulary level, the vocabulary used in the Simple English is simpler vocabulary. The recommendation for these pages are that people who author them use the 1,000 most commonly used words in the English language. And of course, sometimes you need to go outside of that, but for the most part, that makes up most of the vocabulary used on the Simple English pages. Also, their recommendation is for shorter sentences and simpler sentence structure. So if a student is asked to do some background information research on a particular topic, and they are trying to have that topic read to them using a text reader, or they're trying to read it independently and it's above their comprehension level, using the Simple English version of Wikipedia might support those students in being able to better understand and build content knowledge and background information on a particular subject. And that's Wikipedia-Simple English. Yet another source, free web resource for helping build background information is called 60-Second Recap. And this resource is really designed for students. It's geared towards teenagers in that preteen sort of age bracket. They have short videos on really classic literature, so these are really popular novels that are used for literature circles and group reading. It provides quick access to information like an overview or an introduction to the story, some basic information on the plot and characters, as well as additional. In some of the stories, they have information on themes that students might need to be thinking about as they're reading. A lot of teachers use this to, again, get kids hooked into a novel, give them just enough information to get them interested in it and give them a little bit of background about what the novel is about. These videos, some of them have 3, 4, 5 short video clips associated with a single novel, and the videos are anywhere from a minute to typically a minute and a half in length. In this short video, we'll show you an example of 60-second recap. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a website resource called 60-Second Recap, and just simply navigate to, you'll see in my URL, 60, the number 60, secondrecap.com. And this website is designed to provide some short video introductions and information on classic text. So this is the main page here. I'm just going to scroll down. You can type right here in the search window where it says looking for something, type in any text or books that you might be looking for. There are some study guides. If I wanted to look and see what study guides are available, I can look here. It gives me a list of some really classic literature, things that are used frequently in the classroom for reading groups. And I'm just going to click on up here on the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn as an example. What this will do will bring me to a page with a very brief text introduction to the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and you'll notice over on the side there are some videos as well. Each of these videos is about a minute to a minute and a half in length and goes over certain features. So there's one on the introduction, an overview, a short one on the plot, some on the characters, as well, and gets into some of the themes that students might experience in the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. So this is a possible source for students who need to build just a little bit more background information, or possibly students who need that video to get them hooked into the book. The videos are geared towards preteen, teenage sort of students, so very engaging, uses very student-friendly language to describe some of the things that they'll be experiencing in the book. So that is 60-second recap. The last example for building background information we're going to talk about today is called Google Lit Trips. And Google Lit Trips is a website designed for educators to help provide background information on selected literature. So again, this is really popular literature used frequently in schools. It uses Google Earth, and so you do have to install Google Earth before you use this resource, but once you install it, you sign up for a free account. Just verify that you are an educator and using this resource for educational purposes. You can go and select any novel that they have. They have quite a few titles listed, again, very popular classic literature. Select that, download a Google Lit Trip. What then a student is able to do with that is use that, open up that that lit trip, it will take them right to Google Earth. It provides a frame of reference, zooms in on the geographical location where this story takes place. If it's a story where people are traveling across places, it will provide that frame of reference from where they started and where they went to. Also, as they click on specific areas within that setting of the story, it brings up access to photos of what it may, some relevant images related to that area, as well as links to websites and more background information on relevant content related to the book and to the area of the setting. So this short video will be a brief demonstration of Google Lit Trips. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate another resource that might be helpful for helping students build background information and knowledge around a particular piece of literature. And this is a resource called Google Lit Trips. And you'll notice up at the top, my URL here is a little bit different than the one I have listed on the slide, which is just googlelittrips.org. That you do have to sign up for an account for this to demonstrate that you are an educator and using this for educational purposes due to some grant funding that they received to build this project and continue it. So I'm on the actual store site where I've already a registered member, and now I want to go ahead and access some of those lit trips. I'm going to show you what that looks like. I entered my email in here, and now I want to select the title of the lit trip to download. It is something you have to actually download. I'm just going to go down and download Anne Frank, the Diary of Anne Frank. So I'm selecting that. I'm going to request that lit trip. Okay. And here it gives me the URL and says I will find that in an email. In just a moment, I'll be back to show you what the rest of this process looks like. Okay, now you'll notice I have my requested lit trip from my Google Lit Trips website, or from the library. Has this URL here I can click on. That's going to go ahead and download a zipped file. And once that's downloaded, I'm going to open that file. You'll notice in this email, let me just hide this just a moment. In this email, it asks you to download it on a computer that has Google Earth installed. So that is something that you need to do, and it's listed on that the initial Google Lit Trip website. But something that you'll need to do before you can utilize these, other than sign up for an account. So I'm going to double click on this Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Woman. It will go ahead and launch my Google Earth. Okay, I'm just going to hide this navigation screen. Now what it's going to do is zoom me in exactly on where this particular piece of literature takes place. So you notice it starts out with the whole globe, it zooms in, and over on the sidebar here, I can click to navigate to certain areas that are referred to in the story. So again, giving students a frame of reference for where this is taking place and different things that might have been happening. If I click over on, again, on the left side here on Anne Frank's home, it will give me a little bit more information. You'll see it used to have a video here. Some of that video source might be missing, but it does tell me YouTube. I can get that from YouTube, but oftentimes those links change. But that will tell me a little bit more here. And again, that gives me, that's one of those blue stars, so I can look for that blue star here. I can use all the traditional Google Earth features and zoom in and out of that area to see what it looks like now. Again, here's one of the concentration camps that refer to, gives you a little bit more information on that, gives you some additional links to look through to gain additional background information around different places and events that happen within the story. So that, in a brief recap, is Google Lit Trips. As we referenced earlier in the presentation, students being able to summarize text that they've read is an important an important step in helping them cement their comprehension. So we have some tools we're going to show you, a couple of tools to show you that will help students with that summarization. also might be useful for students who might not be able to maintain their attention for longer readings, but maybe they can get some of the information or get some background information through a summary. Our first tool is called Text Compactor, and Text Compactor again is an open source or free website, I should say, textcompactor.com. What you're able to do is highlight and copy text from any online resource. That can be something in Google Docs, a PDF that has selectable text, or a website. Simply highlight the text you want to summarize, copy it, and paste it onto the Text Compactor website. There's a slider bar so you can choose how short or long you want to make that summary in relation to the original body of text. And this short video will demonstrate what that looks like on the Text Compactor website. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a free website called Text Compactor, and the feature of Text Compactor is that it provides an automatic summarization of any text that's copied and pasted onto the website. So I have an article, I'm at textcompactor.com, but I'm just going to switch over to another website. I have an article here on a certain dinosaur. So if you have an article, this is not too long of one, but if you have an article or perhaps even a chapter of a book, any online, any accessible text online that you can highlight. I'm going to highlight this entire article. You don't have to highlight the entire thing. You could highlight portions of an article or a chapter. And then I am going to just right-click on my highlights and copy that. I'm going to go over to my Text Compactor tab. I'm going to right-click and paste into Text Compactor. And now I can go down to the slider here, and I can choose how short I want to make that summary. I can make it as long or as short as I want to in relative to the original text. So I'm just going to slide this bar, I guess I'll slide it over, let's leave it at 50%. Down in the bottom box now, it will give me approximately half of the original text. Analyzes it automatically to try to pull out the most relevant information, but not always a guarantee. But I now have a shortened version of that original article. I can use any text-to-speech program or language translation tool to help read that article to me or for me. And that is Text Compactor.
In this next section, we're going to be looking at how you can support vocabulary understanding with a variety of websites and add-ons, extensions in Google. Oftentimes students struggle with vocabulary, and these following options will help them get definitions, will simplify complex vocabulary, and can be quite a benefit for them. The first one we're going to look at is Google Dictionary. This is an extension that allows the student literally to have a definition at the click of a button. You double click on any word on a web page or in a Google Doc, and Google Dictionary will pop up a definition of that word. Sometimes they have a pronunciation for the word, sometimes not, but be comforted in the fact that our text readers that we had demonstrated earlier will read the Google Dictionary words that are brought up, and if you choose, as you right click and bring it up, you can even do further research, which takes you out onto the web, and you can get more expanded definitions on a given word. So take a look at the video, and we'll move on after that.
In this demonstration, we're going to take a look at Google Dictionary, and this is the extension icon up here in the upper right corner, and we have a document in front of us with many words that I don't understand. For instance, I might not understand this word here. If I double click on it, that will force the extension to provide me with a definition of diabetes, which I really did know what it is. If I want to find out what the definition is, I can listen to it with Speak It,
Diabetes, a metabolic disease in which the body's inability to produce any or enough insulin causes elevated levels of glucose in the blood.
And that can be helpful. So as a student goes through and they're reading it, if they don't quite understand what a word is, they can then not only read the context that the word is in, but then also get a definition. Hopefully that will improve their understanding. Now, Google Dictionary does allow the collection of words in a list, but let's take a look and see what we have here. I've selected a few. I right-click on the icon, go to Options, and you'll see that I have 9 words in my history that I looked up. If I download the history in a comma-separated file, which means it opens up in a spreadsheet, it ends up with this prefix of EN, which I think stands for English, and then the definition. Could be a little bit confusing to kids, might not be the best way to collect a word list. If a student does, they certainly are going to have to edit out that EN, and then they would get a definition list, and maybe that would be suitable for their needs. Google Dictionary like this might be suitable to have students read, collect their definitions, and then of course bring them together and share them that way. But that's Google Dictionary, very nice free option to help students understand what they're reading.
The next vocabulary support is a website called Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English. That's a long title there. But I guess it provides great vocabulary support for words that maybe our ESL students struggle with. For instance, if I told you, don't stress about the stress of taking a test or taking a stress test. We've got 3 different versions of or 3 different definitions of stress. Longman's does a nice job of explaining each one of those in context and can help people understand that there are 3 ways that you can look at stress: nouns, adjectives, and verbs, whatever. And it can be quite a useful tool. Take a look at the video, and we will move on after that.
This is the Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English, and this is a non-Chrome based activity. So if you're not in the Chrome environment and you need to help students with language, and not so much as typing in a word like machine and spelling it right, searching for it, it gives you a bunch of options for machine. Notice though, I don't know what a franking machine is, and I'm almost afraid to look. But if I want to look at, I've got machine as a noun and machine as a verb. I'll go look at the noun, and we have definitions there, and suggestions about how machine might be used. For instance, in a computer, my machine just crashed. Is the washing machine working now? So really it takes machine and it builds upon the concept of the word. The good part of all of this is when you're in the Chrome browser, at least you do have the option of using a text-to-speech support like Speak It. If you were out, you could use any one of the free natural readers and other text-to-speech option that runs in the Windows environment. So you can see that by typing in one word machine, it expands on the various uses of the word, and that was just the noun. Let's back up here and take a look at what the verb looks like. And a little simpler. Machine to fasten pieces of clothing to get cloth together using machine. So it's actually the verb usage of machine, and it's actually much simpler than the noun. I thought it would have more, but really machining is machining. So the Longman Dictionary is useful for students that are beginning to or are in some stage of conquering the English language, those poor people. But we can use this to support ESL students quite handily, which is another, let's look up handily, I wonder. Handily, is that a word? I don't know, we'll find out. Handily, something that is placed into position. American English, if you win something handily, you win easily. So there you go. It can work for some of our slang. So that might make the Longman Contemporary Dictionary one that you might find very useful. And that's the end of that one.
The next one we're going to take a look at is the Google Research Tool. This is built into Google Docs. You get to it by right-clicking and selecting Research Tool from the context menu. Literally, a student highlights a word, right-clicks on it, and selects Research Tool, and all of the information on the web is then available in a sidebar where students can look at images, they can look at video, they can look at more websites based on a particular vocabulary item. It's very useful. It is kind of reminds me of Instagrok that we looked at a little bit earlier, only does not present the information in that nice web option. But with that said, take a look at the video, and I think that you'll want to have the Google Research Tool at your fingertips as well.
Today you're going to get a twofer. This is primarily working with Google research tools, but oftentimes we want to have a document to work against or work through or expand on. I'm going to use an extension, a free extension called Save to Google Drive. I'm going to save this. I have it set up in Google Drive in the options menu to go to a particular folder in my Google Drive, so I know where it goes. It's always fun to save stuff and never know. Anyway, I'll just select that, and it starts doing its work over here, and we can see that it's working. All I'm doing is copying this and all of this information, and I've done it. So I'm going to go to Google Drive, and I just happen to have that folder open, and here it is. Now there's going to be a lot of front matter in this document. That was the stuff that was here. I'm going to just leave it for now. I could get rid of it if I wanted to, but I don't. So I'm just going to leave it. We'll just scroll past it until we get down to our document. Here's our text. I'm going to just select this for a moment. That was not the right thing to do, but that's the way it goes. You notice, by the way, you got your citation at the end, so that can be quite helpful if you do decide to use this in some kind of writing exercise where that citation is necessary. So there we have it. Now, the research tools, I'm just going to close them down for a moment. A couple of ways of getting them. You can go here to Tools and Research, but what is very interesting is, for instance, I'm reading about the Flexfoot cheetah design that Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner, used. Highlight my text that I want, I right-click, and notice there's Research. Watch what happens on the right side. We begin to get information that relates to this word, in which case we have some images, and we can probably take a look at, and this is the company that made it together and talks about how it works, and so we've got a lot of material relating to this text here, and that's how the research tools work so nicely. If, for instance, we want to look at 3D printers, right-click, Research, it begins to look at 3D printers. And so what we're able to do with Google and with an article is we can expand on it and embellish it so much more than we ever could, and it's all done right within Google Drive. Now again, I happen to be out here on the Michigan Electronic Library. I used Google Save to Google Drive. I saved it as a Google Doc so that I could open it up in Google Docs and do much what I need. Certainly I could highlight things, but and you know, if this were a different if there were a different procedure required for dealing with this document, but today it was looking at what we can do with the research tools by simply highlighting and look at what we have here. So that is the research tools in Google, something hopefully that you will demonstrate to your students.
Now this is keywords. It is available in Google Docs, but it's an add-on. And what it allows you to do based on a given document is select those keywords that are that have a high probability to support the vocabulary needs of a given article. So the teacher creates the keyword list. The student then can go to the keyword option in Google Docs, open up the list, and this gives them a path for looking for those words within the document and hopefully helping them understand and comprehend more what those keywords have to do in relation to the entire document. It's a pretty nice feature. Take a look at the video and then we'll move on.
This demonstration, I'm going to show you the add-on in a Google Doc called Keywords. And keywords can be thought about as vocabulary support or a vocabulary support focus that we would want a student to look for when they're going through a document. And so we start out to create a keyword list. I might call this list prosthetics. And I'm going to call it my technology class. So once I do that, I can create the word list. So you name it, you get a document, you create a word list. What it does is create a spreadsheet that relates to this document, and you fill it in with the keywords. And so we open up a spreadsheet and we see that the keyword and description is here. My keywords, prosthetics technology. So I'll go back to my document and I see a word that I want. I'm going to copy it and I'll go and begin populating my document. And this happened to me several times. And so you'll see it's a matter of locating what's important in the document that you want the students to pay attention to. Copying that, pasting it in. I can go through and maybe I want to do more words, but you can see you're copying and pasting all the way through the document. Maybe you want a word like congenital. Add that. I just made a mistake. We'll try again and go here. So I've made a keyword list. Now you're just going to have to imagine that I've captured all the words from this document that I want. On the student side, they approach the document, you tell them that there's a keyword list available, they go to add-ons, they go to keywords, and this time they view the keyword list. And the list of those appears, and there it is, prosthetics technology. I'm going to tell you that for all the ones that you create. They will appear in this list, and so from time to time when you're finished, you may need to edit those documents out, and so making it easier for students. Anyway, there they are. And so now we're reading about prosthetic technology. I want my students to listen to this word,
prosthetics,
and begin to read what does this article have to do with prosthetics, and where. Whoops. All right. I can learn to highlight. I'll be better at it.
Flexifoot cheetah.
Where does this come into play? So we can use these as directional pointers to focus students' attention on a given document. Certainly we could, if we want, invoke the research tools to expand on this even more. But what we have here is the add-on keywords that a teacher can select an article and help students with comprehension of the article and hopefully learn something fantastic from it. Take a look at it and see if that's one that will work for you.
Our next option is a website. It's called Rewordify. And like Text Compactor, sort of, what it does is it takes complex vocabulary and rewords it in a simpler form. And it does this all automatically. You can adjust those options for changing the complexity of the text. So what this does is you can use this in a couple of different ways. You've got the article. You may have readers at differing levels in your classroom. You could have the original. You could create maybe a middle-of-the-road simplified version and then a very easy version. Everyone then could perhaps read at their own level, or a student could start out reading something at a simplified level and then move up and expand their vocabulary by reading the more complex vocabulary version. Very, very useful. Take a look at the video, and by the way, take a look at the hyperlink for the additional printable vocabulary supports that are also available in Rewordify.
This is a website called Rewordify.com, and if I could put it simply, this website will take complex text and put it and simplify it in a variety of different ways to make it easier for a student to understand some more complex vocabulary. Let's take a look at how it works. Typically you paste text into this box and then select Rewordify. Some of the settings that are possible are here in the display mode. The levels of rewording, obviously we'll pick the easiest because that will simplify things for the easiest level reader. We can change the highlighting here. That's not such an important issue, but it might be for some kids. The first thing that we're going to look at is going to reword the hard words, and then you'll be able to click or tap to see the original. And so watch what happens here when I save it. I'm going to take this text here, which is about bottled water, copy it, go back, paste it in, and then Rewordify it. Takes a bit, and we'll notice that bottled, and here's the original word when I click on bottle versus tap, which is safer, ubiquitous, everywhere. So we're getting a possibility of how we can simplify text increasingly more and more, and so you can see that how it works all the way through the document. All right, let's look at another simplification, and we'll go back to settings, and this time I want to display the original with the vocabulary in a column. Save that, go home, have to repaste my text in, Rewordify it. Notice now, verses, we get a definition, and of course all of this stuff, as we highlight it, we can use our text reader.
Versus against slash compared to slash or.
So we can use our text-to-speech extensions to read this, but line by line it offers supports for students who have trouble with more complex vocabulary, gives them a definition. Let's go back to settings one more time. This is another feature that works nicely to have them in 2 columns. So I'll go home, paste that text back in again, and Rewordify. And our document. Now you'll see situation 1, situation 2, and we can see how they are different, and that again can be a support for students that struggle with complex vocabulary. The website is Rewordify. It is a very powerful site, and one that you should probably take a serious look at.
This last one is Snap and Read. And this is one of our paid for Chrome extensions. This is part of the Snap and Read text-to-speech engine. This version works very much like Rewordify, but it does it right within the document. You don't have to go out on the web. So if you have Snap and Read, this is built in, and it works much the same. It simplifies complex text at a variety of levels. You'll see in the video how the menu option allows that to happen. So take a look at the video and decide whether Snap and Read is for you and your students.
This is my demonstration of Snap and Read's text complexity tool. And if we look over here on the upper left corner, we see the text complexity tool here. Before we get started, we will look at the options, and those are contained in the options part of the extension. And under text complexity, we have this slider to adjust just how much conversion is going to happen. Obviously, into the left, more and less. So we're going to move it all the way to the simplest or the greatest text complexity conversion. Close that down. I'm going to bring my text complexity tool. I'm going to select it and select the document. And then you'll notice over here, here is our document. All of these words that are italicized, if I click on them, you can see that the original appears, and then the simpler text version is presented everywhere, ubiquitous, more and more, increasingly. Over the last few years, recent years. So we have blocked and forbidden, banned. So we can see that at a very simplest form, we have a number of these words that are that have been converted. We can then print this if we wish. We can make it a little larger so that we can see the entire document and work our way through it. But the point is, by simplifying the text or putting the text into more understandable wording, the student will be better able to understand it. They can maybe perhaps begin to use the word ubiquitous in their everyday language. But that is the text simplification tool. Remember that you travel to the extension. I just turned it off. That wasn't the right thing to do. And we can adjust that text complexity from very difficult to very simple, and somewhere in between. You will have to play with this setting as you demonstrate this to your students. But that's it. Snap and Read's Text Complexity Tool.
In this next section, we've got some options for highlighting and annotation. Why is highlighting worth any work on the part of a student? Well, if I were a teacher and I were highlighting a section of a document, I would want students to pay close attention to that area, and I would, of course, make that very apparent to them. Students oftentimes can use highlighting to identify key points, important information in a document, and that can all be helpful. You get students working together where I highlight something and my partner highlights something maybe a little bit different. We can have a shared understanding of a document using highlighting tools. Annotation is the ability to comment maybe within a document. That would be maybe a student might do some writing in the margin. A teacher could say, hey, pay attention to this section and actually offer a question, look for this concept or this thing in this section, and then the student can read, and we kind of give them a reason for reading with annotation. Lastly, annotation also works pretty well if you have a PDF document that a student needs to fill in. We're going to show you a PDF annotator that will do just that. And so let's get moving. The first one we're going to look at is commenting in Google Docs. Again, commenting in Google Docs allows us to select a section. We can comment on that section. Someone can comment on our comment. But we can embed these in the document. Again, we embed them for pushing comprehension support. We can embed them so students show their comprehension of this in a particular document that we're looking at. So take a look at this video. I think you'll find it very useful.
This is Google Docs, and I'm going to show you how commenting can be used to support a student's comprehension and reading. We know that commenting can be a powerful tool from the writing side of things. Let's take a look at how commenting might work in a document that a student is to read. Now, we know from our supports that this is a Google Doc. We would want to use Read and Write for Google to read it for those students that have difficulty with reading the text. But I want to start this exercise out by inserting a comment right at the beginning of the document to ensure that the students will have a focus when listening or reading. I highlighted the title, and I want to go right down to comment. Now, the comment that I need, I have secretly prepared, and I'm going to paste it in. Once I have done that, the students will see this when I share this document with them. If I comment, my comment is ready. They can reply here. I can toggle back and forth between the long and the short view. Should I move here, I can edit what I needed to say, or I can delete it altogether, which I don't want to. So now, with it existing out here, the student's responsibility would be to first, let's see, we'll find something. Bottled water is not a better choice than tap water. So let's see. So if I see some documents right here, I can highlight some text. Listen to it. It comes from the same sources. So I can, student might be able to comment. Oops, if I learn how to type. And I can comment that. That would be my supporting that would support this question. So you can see that as they go through the article, they can make comments on things they can highlight to support their beliefs. I could have broken this up into 4 different comments, I suppose. It really doesn't matter, but that's commenting in Google Docs and how it can support students that are reading Google documents.
Cami it has to be my most favorite find ever in the world. If I was going to be on a desert island and I needed a PDF viewer, boy. Anyway, I'd want Cami on my Chromebook. But Cami allows viewing of PDF documents. In particular, Cami allows annotation of if someone scans in a worksheet for a student to fill out, or perhaps skeleton notes. A student will then be able to write right over the top of the document, and it will save with the document so that the student then can listen to the document, look at their answers, and it allows folks to take advantage of PDF documents. They're still around. They're going to be around for a long time. And those things can be utilized. There's a drawing tool. At least you can draw some simple paint kind of drawing with it. And it's a very nice tool. It makes it very possible to read PDFs, because you can have an OCR function with it, and then also use our text readers. But Cami, probably number one on my list of favorite PDF tools. Take a look at the video and we'll move on.
This is Cami, a PDF viewer that can be part of your Google Drive. I have a document up here, and I wanted to show you first off the highlighting and commenting tools that are available as part of Cami. Looking at the workspace, we've got a list of pages over here. We've got our tools; those are most important. This is the page view. This would be actually more like a table of contents view. This shows all of our comments, which we have none. We can choose to display that sidebar or not. Anyway, moving back, looking at our tools. The very first tool on the list is the highlighting tool. You've got multiple colors to choose from. If you go to the the settings, you can create a very interesting series of colors. Simply, student selects a color, highlights some text, and that's it. Now you can use this highlighting tool to look for key information. A teacher could use the highlighting tool to help a student focus in on key important aspects of a paragraph or a document. Very useful. The button next to a strike-through tool and an underline tool could be used. I think the highlighting is a little bit easier. Below that, the next important one is a commenting tool. Comments are useful for teachers to obviously make comment on student work. They're also useful to help point a student in a direction to look for key information. Comments can be used when we select the tool first, highlight some text, and then I can enter in my justification to the side as a comment, and that seems to work out very well. Below that, we can enter text anywhere we wish on the document. Again, if a student needs to make some notes in the margin, he could use a comment. He can also write so with text. It's a matter of picking your color. A text box appears and you can type. Below that is a drawing tool. Very simple paint type of program. If you need to diagram in some way, circle some key facts, you can do so with the paint tool. The shape tool is part of the premium package and not available in the free mode. Digital signature tool, text selection tool, and the text selection tool is useful when we want to highlight some text, select some text, and then use our text-to-speech extensions to read that. So there we have it, Cami, default PDF editor on my Google Drive. One that you should take a serious look at if you are going to continue to use PDF documents in your Google Classroom or just as part of your everyday work.
Texthelp Study Skills is a Google Doc add-on, and it allows kids to highlight text in 4 different colors and then collect those highlights. So if I'm, say, perhaps wanting to get some information, some concepts, I can highlight those concepts and then export them to a document, especially in a shared situation where you've got a couple of kids looking at a document. They can compare their highlights, maybe get into a discussion of why this is important, why it's not important, and have a shared experience, and hopefully a significant improvement in understanding the content of the document. Take a look at the video for Texthelp Study Skills.
In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a product called Texthelp Study Skills, and this is a Google Docs add-on. I'm in a Google Doc window here. You can see up at the top of my window, across my menu bars, I have an option that says add-ons. These are a list of add-ons that I've installed already, much like you install apps or extensions in the Chrome store. Google Docs has its own set of add-ons, and you can get and manage your add-ons right from this menu. So one of the add-ons that I have already added is Texthelp Study Skills, and in this I'm going to show you how to use the highlighting tool. So I'm going to my add-ons, Texthelp Study Skills, and then show highlighting tools. So highlighting is a strategy that we often use in a low-tech way with readers to focus on comprehension, maybe highlighting certain vocabulary or concepts. Also, we use it to revisit different areas for studying for tests or preparing to write a paper for highlighting information that we want to use in our paper. So this is a way that we can do this in an online environment with students, in particular in Google Docs. So now you can see I have 4 different highlight colors to choose from. And I'm going to highlight some things in yellow. So I select my text, I click on my yellow highlighter, and select some text here, click my yellow highlighter, and maybe now I'll do some things up here in blue, maybe another down here in blue, and just for fun I'll choose one more and I'll highlight that one in green. So now I have some things highlighted in this document. This is just a document. I've copied and pasted some information from a Wikipedia page, but this could be any information that a student has available in Google Docs. I've highlighted those things. Now what I want to do, so I could just go back to this document and reread my highlighted information, or I can take it to the next step and I can collect those highlights and put them in a separate document, and then I can use that document to write from, to study from, etc. Again, the different colors make it give me the option to highlight things in different places in the document and then put them all together. So if those are related concepts, or maybe the yellow highlights are highlights about characters and green highlights are highlights about the setting and so on, but the teacher can give those directions, and then I can collect my highlights over here on my highlighting toolbar, and it will give me the option to collect them by document position, so they'll keep them in the same order as they are in the document, or I can collect them by color. So I'm going to choose by color. I'm going to choose to collect those highlights. Now it says it's created that document and says you can click here to see it. So I'm going to click that hyperlink here, and it's going to bring me to a new Google Doc now that it's created, and it has the highlights. You'll notice that all of my yellow highlights are together, my blue highlights are together, and my green are together. And then down at the bottom of this document, it gives me a link to the original document. So if I need to go back to the original document for more information, or perhaps I want to collect some additional highlights that go along with those, I can do that just by clicking that hyperlink. So now I can save that back into whatever folder I want to in Google Docs, and that, in a nutshell, is Texthelp Study Skills Google Doc add-on. So hopefully you found some useful tools to help support your students in understanding new content and comprehending important text. And being able to find a different way to support through asking questions, through them highlighting online, through them annotating on top of documents. So kind of your high-tech post-it notes or writing in the margins. So in terms of next steps, we're hoping that you'll revisit some of those videos. You'll install any extensions, and we have software. There really isn't any software to be installed, but mostly extensions and add-ons, and visit those websites and choose some that you think maybe resonate with your students' needs, maybe will work well with the content and types of documents and reading your students need to be engaged in. If you have students who you think might benefit from that Snap and Read Universal, so again, that's that text reader with the built-in readability feature, so that built-in text complexity measure where you can, on a sliding scale, increase or decrease automatically the complexity of the vocabulary within a text. If you have students who need that feature, refer to our document linked here on how to get that for your students. Again, this is a extension, a Chrome extension that is fee-based, but the ISD, Special Education Department, does provide that for students who qualify, meaning students with an IEP who demonstrate that need. Introduce those supports to your students and monitor the impact on comprehension. And if you find some things that work really well for your students, we'd love to hear your stories. So moving on, questions, and I should say comments, successes, additional ideas, contact us. Let us know. Our email information is there. We thank you very much for joining the series. Hopefully you found some useful tools. We'd love to hear your feedback. So
thank you much.
Thank you.